This photograph of 1990s Kolkata captures the dense urban landscape where the five founders of Nova Bridge Systems first built their office. It was a high-stakes, high-energy environment right at the start of India's technological opening. Their five children occupied this space by inheritance. During long company meetings, they were background fixtures, sitting in the corners of the Salt Lake City office, doing homework or drawing while their parents negotiated the future of the company. In one 1999 meeting, 4-year-old Ram spent 2 hours silently watching 5-year-old Lakshmi draw. They didn't speak. They were simply there, two children sharing a room because their parents were sharing a business. At this stage, their bond was entirely passive. They lived in the same environment and were governed by the same professional gravity, but they had no shared language of their own. That baseline vanished in September 2001. As the Twin Towers fell, global investment in emerging markets froze. For a mid-sized firm like NovaBridge, the financial shock was immediate and terminal. The shutdown was orderly. By December, the founders had cleared out the office, settled their debts, and turned off the lights. The five families scattered. They left the central hub in Kolkata for new lives in Delhi, Mumbai, Kochi, and Bangalore, shown here as isolated points on the map. For the children, the physical proximity they had taken for granted was gone. The transition from daily presence to total silence was absolute. Because they were so young, they couldn't understand the economic forces that had just dismantled their world. They only knew that their social circle had effectively disappeared. This physical scattering created a void. Before they were old enough to comprehend the shared context of their parents' work, they were cut off from it entirely. In 2004, broadband internet and the social network Orkut arrived in India, providing a way to bridge the hundreds of miles between those five families. The algorithm did what physical geography simply could not. 12-year-old Gowri saw a suggested connection for 9-year-old Ram and hit send, sparking the first digital link between the families since 2001. Over the next 3 weeks, a chain reaction of friend requests reconnected the group, first Shahrukh, then Mira, and finally Lakshmi, closing the circuit between the five cities once again. They were no longer just children sitting in a corner. They were active participants in a network, sending messages and making the deliberate choice to maintain a connection. The internet offered these teenagers a low-stakes environment. It was a private space where they could be vulnerable with each other, away from the eyes of their parents. 3 days after rejoining the network, Ram sent a private request to Lakshmi. This was their first exchange. It proved that even at 4 and 5 years old, they had been paying attention to each other. Those 2 short lines of text bridged the 5-year gap instantly. Their conversation soon detached from the main group chat. They established a private thread that ran parallel to the larger network, often continuing long after the others had signed off. This thread was a sustained, quiet intimacy. It lacked the usual adolescent performance because it was built on a foundation they had laid years earlier in that office. Their exchange proved the silent recognition of their childhood had survived the rupture. It was simply waiting for a medium that could hold it. The Orkut group became a space where the 5 of them could talk about what their parents wouldn't. The collapse of NovaBridge was a source of silence at home, but online it was a subject of intense curiosity. They pooled their fragments of memory. Ram knew about the boxes of work things stored in Delhi, while others remembered low, anxious phone calls from the hallway or the specific day the atmosphere in their houses changed. By sharing these glimpses, they constructed a narrative of the company that was entirely their own. They weren't just inheriting a story, they were documenting it. This process transformed their connection. They were no longer just children linked by a failed venture. They were an alliance built on a shared understanding of their own history. While the physical office in Kolkata remained closed and the paper records sat in storage, the digital network between the children was becoming a permanent fixture of their lives. Those early chat rooms and late-night gaming sessions were more than just entertainment. They were a testing ground for how they worked as a team. In those games, they learned each other's cognitive styles. Lakshmi excelled at processing rapid, high-intensity inputs, while Ram focused on long-term strategies that took 20 minutes to pay off. They were learning to operate as a single unit. The momentum of their parents' business had stopped in 2001, But the connection between the families simply moved into a different medium. It stayed there, hidden from their parents, until the group was ready to return to the real world. The teenagers logging on to Orkut in 2004 were unknowingly laying the foundation for the project they would eventually manage together. They had taken a history they were supposed to lose and turned it into the basis for everything they would build next.